trust and obey. But we never can prove the delights of His love. Into all on the altar we lay. For the favor He shows and the joy He bestows are for them who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. And in fellowship sweet we will sit at His feet, or will walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. So here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God.
this morning is from Isaiah 58, verses 1 through 12, and that can be found in the Pew Bible on page 734. Cry aloud, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the judgment of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why have we fasted, and you see it not? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you take no knowledge of it? Behold, in the day of your fast you seek your own pleasure and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice to be heard on high. Is such a fast that I choose, a day for a person to humble himself? Is it to bow down his head like a reed and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this fast that I choose to loose the bonds of wickedness and to undo the straps of the yoke and to let the oppressed go free and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him and to hide yourself from your own flesh. Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall not go before you, and the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, Here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger, and the speaking wickedness, if you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your light rise in the darkness, and your gloom be as the noonday. And the Lord will guide you continually, and satisfy your desire in scorched places, and make your bones strong. And ye shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters do not fail. And your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of your generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets to dwell in. This is the reading of the word.
Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through his infinite mercy. His child and forever I am. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, his child and forever I am. Redeemed and so happy in Jesus, no language my rapture can tell. I know that the light of his presence with me doth continually dwell. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, his child and forever I am. I know I shall see in his beauty the King in whose law I delight, who lovingly guardeth my footsteps and giveth me song to the night. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, his child and forever I am. The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice. all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, and trembles at his voice. How great is our God! Sing with me, how great is our God! And all will see how great is our God. And age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God! Sing with me, how great is our God! And all will see how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God.
Amen. Thank you, Gary. Brothers and sisters, I invite you to rise for the reading of the gospel today. You'll find it in the Bibles in the pews, page 962. 962. We are in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 13 through 20. Good. All right. Jesus, speaking to his people, "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Verse 17, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Verse 20, "For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. Jesus bids us shine with a clear pure light. Like a candle burning in the night, in this world of darkness, we must shine, you in your small corner, and I in mine. Jesus bids us shine, first of all for him. Well, he sees and knows it when our light is dim. He looks down from heaven, sees us shine, you in your small corner, and I in mine. Jesus bids us shine then for all around, as many kinds of darkness in this world abound. Sin and want and sorrow, we must shine. You in your small corner, and I in mine. Susan Bogart Warner wrote these words in 1868. She and her sister turned to writing at quite a young age, actually, to help pay for family expenses after their mother died when they were very young. And then their father experienced a series of very significant financial setbacks. So they took to writing about what they loved, their faith. They ended up living across from the military academy at West Point, New York, where their uncle was once assigned as a chaplain there. They themselves were also devout Christians, often holding Bible studies for the young West Point cadets, and they were deeply, deeply loved. Their life began on a trajectory of them being New York socialites, and because of life and how it happens sometimes, they found themselves impoverished, living in a farmhouse across from West Point. They were deeply loved. They would go out of their way. The cadets, would go out of their way to go to the Bible studies and the Sunday school classes that the two sisters held, never marrying, seeing the boys, and they are boys to me now as I get older, seeing the boys as their sons. In fact, it's even believed that Eisenhower, yes, that Eisenhower was one of the last class of cadets to attend the sisters' Bible studies and Sunday school classes. They were so beloved that they are the only two non-military affiliated civilians buried in the cemetery at West Point. Incredible. Incredible. I want to talk this morning about being salt and light in cities. These metaphors that Jesus gives us. You no doubt know these verses and this text very well that we just read. That can actually make preaching on them a little hard because people begin checking out and making your grocery list for later in the week and thinking about this conversation that you wish had gone differently because you've heard these words before. We find them in Matthew's gospel set in Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount, his opening sermon. And just before these words are what's known as the Beatitudes, where Jesus declares 8 blessings to his people. You're blessed if you're poor in spirit. You're blessed if you mourn. You're blessed if you're meek. You're blessed if you hunger and thirst for righteousness. You're blessed if you're merciful. You're blessed if you're pure in heart. You're blessed if you're peacemakers. You're blessed if you're persecuted because of righteousness. You can't just be persecuted because you're a jerk. That's just being a jerk. But you're blessed if you're persecuted for righteousness' sake. These holy character traits and commitments define the way of Jesus for the follower of Jesus. But lest the follower think that it is enough to just cultivate these holy traits in some ivory tower or desert cave or Sunday morning back porch where it's just me and Jesus. No. Jesus goes right into the necessity of outward influence, like it's the most natural thing in the world, using metaphors of salt and light in cities. Timeless metaphors, ubiquitous, they're everywhere. In fact, we still refer to good people as salt of the earth people, do we not? Or conversely, if someone isn't so good, we say they're not worth their salt. I saw some of you pointing fingers at one another just now. In ancient times, as today, salt was used for preservation. They knew that it drew out moisture, killing the microbes that would induce rot and that they could prevent food from becoming putrid with salt. Salt was also used to enhance flavor, to bring out the fullness of what's there. In religious settings, we see in the Old Testament that salt was actually supposed to be included in worship. Leviticus 2:13 instructed them to season all your grain offerings with salt. In broader society, the Romans would rub salt on a baby's lips on their 8th day to ward off evil, and in some corners of the Roman Empire, soldiers were paid in salt. And in fact, this is where we get the word salary, from the word sal, salt. Chaplain Perez, you want to be paid in salt? I don't really want to either, I don't think. It was precious back then. Precious. I think of all these uses, the idea of preservation speaks most to me today. Jesus tells his people that they have a preservative function in society. They inhibit moral decay. When Jesus says his followers are the salt of the earth, he's reminding them that rot is setting in the rest of our world, and we have a critical role to play. I know it's standard fare for a preacher to stand before a congregation and gripe about the moral decay of our time. I know it's cliche, but as the years goes on, I see it more and more, it seems. Common courtesies like holding doors for one another, or waiting till everyone's seated together to eat, or checking on neighbors is mostly gone. There's a decency decay amidst us. Pausing for little greetings before getting down to business are gone. I remember as a teenager calling my buddy John's home, and his mother answered, and I said first thing, "Hi, can I talk to John?" And she responded, "Well, excuse me, Matthew, I'm doing very fine, thank you. How are you?" She was teaching me a moral etiquette lesson, and 3 decades later, my phone etiquette is very different because of her saltiness, we could say. I teach my son never shake a man's hand sitting down, and don't have your earpiece in when someone's talking to you, for crying out loud. He's got kids, he knows. Can we go back to the days when boys were getting earrings instead of these earpieces in their ears, and you're trying to have a conversation with them, and you know they're listening to 10 different things at once? Some of the moral decay around us is manners like this, but some is more serious. My wife works at a hospital, and it's not uncommon for her to have patients who are there because of road rage incidents where someone fired into their car because they felt slighted. Moral decay all around us. You go home this evening, you flip on your TV, and the streaming service will tell you what the top shows in the U.S. were today. These were the top 5 shows in the U.S. today. Everyone else loved them. You want to try them? I did the other night, and it was awful. We made it 2 minutes into one. I tried the next one. I thought, this is what my society says is the most entertaining thing we have to offer today? God help us. In contrast, we are commanded in Colossians 4:6, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Always be gracious, he writes. The Greek word here for grace is charis, meaning to be a blessing, kindness, or grace, and it comes from the word kairo, meaning I rejoice. Do people rejoice when you've opened your mouth and spoken? Do your words salt the conversation? Do you say just enough to bring out the fullness of what's there? It is said that if silence is good for the wise, how much better for fools? Heinrich Heine said that a fool may talk, but a wise person speaks. It is said that anything we add to the truth detracts from the truth. Proverbs 10:8 says that a chattering fool comes to ruin. There's an African proverb, and I love this one. It says that words should be weighed, not counted. Proverbs 12:18 says that there is one who speaks rashly like the thrusts of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Healing. Your words can slice open a person, or bring them back to life. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, the apostle writes. Jesus then turns from the metaphor of salt to the metaphor of light. Not only are we salt that adds moral seasoning and disrupts the rot that tends to set in, Jesus reminds his people that we are light. What is life without light? What is life without that illuminating, transformative presence that even the smallest of drives away darkness and helps us navigate this world? Consider how a small candle can light up an entire room. Consider how the light of our world, the sun, is the literal engine of all of life's processes. And without it, seasons don't happen. Our bodies become disoriented. Life would grind to a frozen halt. It's that important. And Jesus draws the parallel, pointing at his followers, you are that important to this world. C.S. Lewis, in his book, The Great Divorce, if you're looking for a book to read this year, maybe that one. C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce, a creative exploration of what the outskirts of hell may be like. So maybe you're not looking for something that heavy, maybe you are, but he's exploring creatively in his way that he does, what might the outskirts of hell look like? He describes a place called Greytown, a liminal place that's perpetually stuck in dusk, just after sunset. There's just barely enough light to see, barely enough light to survive. And to make matters worse, there's a constant drizzle that just soaks everything in discomfort. This cruel, damp dimness causes everything they try to do to be ramshackle and shoddy. And the inhabitants live in a constant state of irritation, constantly hurting one another and then picking up to move farther and farther away from one another, multiplying their isolation. It's an endless, hazy void of solitude, petty strife, and meaninglessness. Notice these outskirts of hell aren't dramatically evil, but instead are dimly evil. When light is withheld, where there is no vision, Proverbs says, the people perish. Right now, today, this moment, there are situations, people, and organizations that need God's light to shine throughout and into them. Because without that clarity, squint as they may, the right path is hard to see. Unable to make out friends and foes, they keep getting close to the wrong ones and farther away from the right ones. Unsure of the ground beneath their feet, they slip and find themselves in places and situations they never should be. We did a training just this weekend as a chapel staff on advising leadership. We get paid. The government says and the commanders expect. They look to us. Shine a light here, chaplain. You don't have to tell me how to plan this war, but will you please shine a light for us? I'm reminded of the words in Isaiah 9:2, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has dawned. This ancient prophecy about Jesus. Nestled within the analogy of light, he turns next to the analogy of a city, saying it is impossible to hide a hub of life like a city. Some of us have learned to hide throughout life. Some because we're antisocial and grumpy and we've just had enough. I said it. You know who you are. Some because we learned early on in our families to just make ourselves small. And if I make myself small, I will be safe. God can heal you from that. He has me. Some of us hide because we've had senior master sergeants say, I need 2 volunteers. And we say, what for? And he says, thank you, I need 1 more volunteer. You learn, I will be quiet and silent and hide. We hide because we don't want the extra work. I didn't call you lazy. That's your own conscience thinking that right now. Jesus is telling them, though, that when you belong to him, you can't hide even if you want to. Imagine trying to hide an entire city, he says, and it's a city on top of a hill. It's impossible. I shouldn't tell this story, but I'm going to. Chaplain Seaman's on his way out. I might as well take some risks. Got to go out on a limb because that's where the fruit is, I've been told. I was one of the first ones in my friend group to turn 18. How's that for a story opening? And we were kids walking in the darkness, and one Friday night, my buddies, we were gathered together doing whatever, and they badgered me to go buy a pack of cigarettes for the group. I was 18. They weren't. I wish I could tell you I was resolute as an oak. I finally caved, and I went to the store, and when I tried to buy a pack from the lady behind the counter, mind you, I grew up in a small town, Texas, she said no. No? I'm 18. I get my ID out, I slide it across the counter, she picked it up, she's looking at it, she starts to shake her head back and forth. And she says, "And to think my daughter looks up to you, Matthew Hanzelka." My. My head dropped, my shoulders dropped. I guess I got my ID back from her, I don't remember. I trudged out without the goods back to my friends who then had the time of their life recounting that story. It was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. I couldn't do anything around them from then on without hearing, "And to think my daughter looks up to you, Matthew Hanzelka." A city on a hill cannot be hidden. It can't. You think you're hiding, you think you're getting away with stuff until you go try to buy those cigarettes, and to think my daughter looks up to you. There are those looking to you right now trying to figure out how to navigate situations. They want to know. It's a lost world. As Heather and I get older and busier with older kids, it's tempting to kind of check out and just focus in on careers and our kids, and that little bit of precious time we have, we want to guard it and maybe stop investing in the young Matt and Heathers out there. We can't. We wouldn't have made it 20 years this year. 20 years. We wouldn't have made it if those ahead of us had just checked out and had stopped investing in us. We were looking around, how do we navigate being newlyweds? How do we navigate the loss of a first pregnancy? How do we navigate job losses? How do we do this? Thank God there were those who didn't check out. There are those looking at you right now. How do we navigate situations? The psychologists call it social referencing. It's called social referencing. There's a term for it. They study it. We look to those who are older than us or in leadership or those that we trust to get cues. How do I respond to this situation? Remember when you had little ones? They would fall down. The first thing they do, they don't cry, they look at you. Am I hurt? Is mom or dad going to freak out right now? And if you go, "Oh my goodness," then they start crying. But if you go, "You're okay. You're okay." "Oh, I'm okay." "Yeah, you're okay." All right, and they get up and they keep going. Social referencing. Dad's scared, I'm scared. Or she's flustered, I'm flustered. Oh, boss is unflustered? Oh, she seems to have some kind of unshakable trust that this is going to work out. I don't know where it comes from, but boy, it sure is comforting. I'm struck in these metaphors by the commonplace, ordinary, very casual nature of salt and light in cities. They remind me of that theological term, common grace. Common grace. Theologians distinguish between common grace and special grace. Common grace is God's universal mercy shown to all humanity. When you woke up this morning, common grace. You made it here safely, common grace. That police officer doing their job, common grace. Kept you safe, got you here, common grace. Common grace restrains sin and provides physical blessings. Remember what Jesus said, God sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous alike. Common grace. We all get to experience God's common grace. And on the other hand is special grace, that particular saving work of the Holy Spirit that regenerates our hearts, minds, and souls. We call it being born again. Common grace sustains life, whereas special grace regenerates the heart and brings salvation through faith. Common grace, in my view, can prepare the ground to receive that seed of special grace, the seed of salvation, creating an environment where the seed will eventually take root and grow and blossom, being salt and light in a bustling city where life is sustained and oriented and protected. These things create and sustain the conditions needed for flourishing. For flourishing. We are that common grace agent of God in this world, preparing the soil where they go, what is it about that person that is salt and light? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's Jesus. These common graces keep the world from devolving into that famous description by Thomas Hobbes in the 17th century, where he said the state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Common grace keeps us from that. And we get to be the salt, light, and cities. I want to spend just a minute on verses 17 through 19, and then we'll wrap up. Verse 17, do not think that I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. I've not come to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until it is all accomplished. Verse 19, therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. What do we do with these words? First, we know that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament law. What we could not do, despite it being spelled out in black and white for us in the law, Christ does. And we are included by faith in that. Okay, good. That's the book of Romans. But what does this really mean? In Genesis 12:3, God tells Abraham, all people on earth are going to be blessed through you. And again in 22:18, through all of your offspring, all nations will be blessed. Later in Isaiah 42:6, the prophet writes, I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness and will hold your hand. I will keep you and make a covenant for the people, a light for the Gentiles. And again in 49:6 of Isaiah, I will make you a light for the Gentiles, that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth. And again in 60:1-3, arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the people. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. It was never, never, never just about Israel. Never. They were to represent God in all of the world simply by their existence, showing everyone how beautiful and wonderful it was to know God, the one true God. They were to be an illuminating presence. They were to be a society that, for some amazing reason, did not rise and then fall and decay and rot like every other kingdom and political party in history has. They were to be a beacon of holy civilization that a dark world could look up to. It wasn't just their job, it was their being. It wasn't to be something they did on the Sabbath. It was something they lived, teaching them, Deuteronomy would say, to their children, talking about it when they sat at home and when they walked along the road, when they laid down and when they got up, writing them on their door frames of their homes and their gates. God's ways were to pervade every moment of their lives, common as these elements we've been talking about. Jesus looks to the fulfillment of this in himself and turning to us who bear his Spirit, saying, you are heirs of this. Go be this. As I close, let me return to the two sisters that I think did this in such beautiful ways. The two Warner sisters in the story we opened with, the only two civilians buried at West Point without some kind of military connection. The story touches me. Maybe it's because I have a son he's getting closer to college age, and I can see him there, and we're going to send him off into the world, and man, I hope there are people like that there to love him. Maybe it's because the airmen I work with, and some that are here this morning, they just seem younger and younger as the years go on, but I don't think it's them that's changing. I'm touched by the sisters' love for and service to these young cadets. They were simply being salt and light, and they made an enduring impact. In fact, the accounts, you can find them online, say that sometimes when the cadets were on military duty, the sisters would hear the cadets reciting some of their other writing that a hymn writer had taken and put music to. It would drift over from military formation runs or from a young man on detail lost in worshipful wonder singing, "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong." That's right. The sisters penned these words in 1860, and they would go on to bring tremendous comfort to innumerable soldiers in the coming years, some wearing gray and some wearing blue. As they huddled nightly around campfires all across our nation, comforting themselves and one another during some of the darkest nights in our country's existence. Common as salt and light in cities. Will you pray with me? Our God, such simple words and concepts. Why do we still struggle so much? Some of us need courage. Some of us are so busy and we learn to say no so that we can be salt and light. Some of us have let the light dim within us, and it's barely a flicker now. We remember a time that it blazed hot. Rekindle that light in us. There is in this text a warning we didn't even touch on: salt that loses its saltiness, good for nothing but to be tossed out. We commit our lives anew to you and to the work you've called us to do in this world, to bearing witness as salt and light. Amen and amen. At this time, we will conclude with singing Eternal Father, and then we'll have the Seaman family up to pray over them. I invite you to stand as we sing Eternal Father.